So first of all, I'd like to thank CryptoCompare for letting me moderate. My name's Adrian Kirk. I run a hedge fund called Liquibit. And for me, this is just revenge to actually have all the exchanges I've been trading with for years here to torture and to ask bad questions to. So without further ado, I'll let my panel introduce themselves. So, Edward?
Yeah, this is Edward Lee from Poloniex. I head product and business development for Poloniex. Poloniex has been an exchange since 2014. It went through a lot of different histories with an acquisition of Circle. And recently in November, we had a spin-off from Circle. And we're currently serving non-US customers. And we're aggressively growing after that spin-off pretty much 8 times in terms of trading volume, double, tripled our user acquisition, and I think there's good things to share throughout this panel.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, thanks for having me. My name's Harry. I'm representing Luno. We're a global exchange, predominantly based in South Africa, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Nigeria. And we've recently launched in Europe. Our goal really is to make it as easy and quick to get into this new world, and we also have an exchange as well.
Hi, thank you for having me here. I'm Hiroyuki Mihara from BitBank. BitBank is one of the biggest Japanese exchanges, so we are regulated by Japanese FSA, and we roughly have 30% of trading volume in Japan.
Last but not least, so my name's Simon. I'm a senior account manager for eToro. For those that don't know eToro, we're a multi-asset platform giving customers the opportunity to buy traditional assets as well as crypto.
Okay, so let's kick off with the subject in hand. So borderless currencies and the future of exchanges. So first of all, the first question I'd like to sort of go through is basically, are the exchanges genuinely borderless today? Seeing as we're all kind of signed up to regulation one way or another. Do you consider yourself borderless, or is the regulators sort of holding you back? And if you're feeling positive about it, what regulators are really actually going with the flow and helping you out?
Yeah, I can start with a little bit of our history. I think a year back, I think we were extremely in the regulatory grounds because we were based in the U.S. We were really focused on the U.S. with Circle operating Poloniex. So I would say, with all the respect that the US regulatory parties have been creating a guideline to crypto, we wanted to have some more flexibility and to be more borderless. To that aspect, we have gone through that spin-off in November, so we are not servicing it for US customers. So to answer the question, Adrian, I think we are now more borderless, where our users are not in one single country. It's not focused in one single country, but all across Europe, Asia, and South America. And we're basically growing very equally in these regions.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the question. I think regulation is obviously a really big challenge. And it's something that we're taking really, really seriously and have been doing for the last 6-7 years. So we've almost been waiting for the regulation. I think someone that's doing it really well is we're the first fully licensed exchange in Malaysia. We've worked really closely with the Malaysian government and the officials. They've been really supportive. And obviously 3 years ago, we closed in Malaysia because they were like, you can't operate without a license here. And we're now the first exchange to go back up there. I think, are we fully borderless? A lot of what we're trying to do is at the local point, whether that's in South Africa, Singapore, or EU, or Malaysia, be the most localized there and work with the regulators there to get people onto the system. So yeah, I think there's a lot of progress happening. It's definitely one of the biggest challenges.
Well, so Japan is the first country to comply regulation with the cryptocurrency in the world, and it started from 2017. And at that time, several hundreds of companies are requesting to register at cryptocurrency exchanges. But finally, the number of the license exchanges is limited. It's like around 20. only 20 companies right now. So in that sense, I think it's, the big border exists right now.
I think from our point of view, it's a little bit different because we come from a traditional background. And we started off offering CFDs, which are contract for difference, derivatives, and we already had these relationships established with regulators like SciSec, FCA, and ASIC, to name a few, and we've really grown with that in mind, and it's now allowed us to add more products to our offering. So where with regards to crypto, depending on what the regulators decide and what they want to do, we feel we can adhere to those rules and what they set. Interestingly enough, we also, given our relationship with the regulators, we've been fortunate enough to work with regulators in terms of putting the framework in place for regulation, especially here in the UK. So working with like the FCA to really provide the right environment for crypto companies to thrive, as well as provide the right rules for the customers to be in.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. That's a good warm-up. So next question I'd like to explore is what I'm most excited about is the future of exchanges and what they're offering and what the next products is that we can start trading. So what have you got in the silos waiting to go?
Right. So what we currently offer on Polo is basically we have the spot market and we have margin trading, which is P2P. I think Polo and BitBank are the only ones that are doing it peer-to-peer. And then we do a bit of staking. I think this is like the nutshell of what we're currently doing. I mean, I think there's two different directions that we're actually heading in terms of the future of crypto exchanges, especially on our end, is both on the institutional side and also on the retail side, because we were well known for both. And on the institutional side, I think everyone knows that futures, perpetual swaps, and a lot of this is something that has emerged, and a lot of the volume has actually converged over to the futures market. And some players are actually going into options, which also is being an interesting space. So I think it's just following the footsteps of what traditional finance actually went in the footsteps of what traditional finance led into. I think that's the institutional side of things that we're currently looking into. There will be some more decentralized or interesting financial products that I think that would be merged with different smart contracts that come from exchanges. However, I think it would first go from futures and options to those interesting financial products. I think on the retail side, there's a lot of people actually have been burnt with a lot of the bear and especially the Sunday having a 10%, 12% drop. A lot of retail dried up in a lot of exchanges. So I think a lot of this retail could be actually be a bit more activated and be more interested in the space by passive income. And I think that could come from lending and also different types of staking opportunities, which also depends on the different decentralized finance platforms. So I think those are two aspects that we're currently really focusing on.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think from the retail side to begin with, almost not super exciting, but just being able to get money in and out instantly, especially in South Africa, adding the instant payment in and out and allowing people to start using these exchanges, buying and selling across. Actually, once that starts to move, that's pretty exciting. I think obviously the DeFi space is really exciting. It's something obviously everyone is looking at, and if you're holding this crypto and then you're getting interest on it, that is an exciting space.
Well, this is just my opinion, not corporate strategy, but I think the big point about Japanese market is, Japan is the most aging country in the world, and our user base is average age is like 20 or 30, right? And the average age in Japan is like around 50, and they have much more money than young people. So we have to focus on those people, in my opinion.
Just going on what Edward was saying there about futures and options, and I think we have a suite of products at the moment. I think in terms of, you mentioned killer products, I think we need to enhance what we already have established. So catching up with traditional markets in terms of futures, options in that respect, but also from a retail point of view, the liquidity across the exchanges is fragmented at the moment, and I think there needs to be some sort of cooperation or coalition to bring that liquidity together to provide a more stable ecosystem in general. And I think with that, that will enhance adoption and regulation to follow suit. Yeah, so that, all that combined. But one of the sort of challenges that I certainly face as an account manager at eToro is clients have their holdings at different exchanges, and something that we've actually found and initiative that we took was to acquire a company called Delta. So they've produced an app where you can actually easily consolidate all of your portfolios into one place and see it there. So that's the first step, and then following from there, I think it'll be very interesting to not just have that with crypto, but incorporate the traditional assets as well, so you can see your entire holding in one place. So that'd be a very interesting thing for crypto exchange to adopt.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about. So in my experience, right, of the markets, the volumes, even though they seem quite large, are actually quite low compared with the other markets, the more established markets. And most of the investor money seems to be kind of sitting on the sideline and kind of waiting to see where it's going. And obviously at some stage that's going to unplug itself. So my question to the panel really is basically, how can we unplug that money? How can we get institutional money into the system and increase the volumes up?
From my opinion, I think there has to be a lot of use cases, for instance, and also financial instruments to allow that. Is, for instance, if there's like a trade for commodities, there's a futures market for commodities, and basically you would hedge whatever the commodities you're actually trading. And in a similar context, like I think stable tokens or different types of assets that are actually used for transmittances and different types of purposes, there should be more financial instruments. And I think it's the overall use of that and like the counterparting financial instruments that actually will be there. I think futures and options are a good start. But I think there will be some more revolutionary means to actually provide that. But also on the development side, not only on the exchange side, there has to be more of the uses there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we look at the total market cap of crypto, as you say, and then you look at the total market cap of other markets, we're tiny at the moment. And a lot of that will come down to the trusts and the regulation. You know, these big pension funds, they can't just be putting clients' money in unregulated markets. I think, as you say, as the use cases come, so we've recently added XRP. XRP is working with MoneyGram, and you know the way it works is it needs the liquidity to transfer money across for free, and they currently don't have enough liquidity to do that. So the more use cases come, there's more people that are going to start holding these cryptos and start using them. So I definitely think they will come. I definitely don't think it's the be-all and end-all institutional coming. I think it'll be great when they do.
Yeah.
But I think deep down, I think things like BAC are making good progress. You know, it was a bit of a flat launch, but you know they're slowly picking up volume and giving the opportunities, and they're quite regulated. So I think it will come when it does.
Well, so I think ETF or Bitcoin Trust will be the key in Japan, I think, because as I told you, so in Japan, the older people are trading at securities companies with face-to-face sales, right? So old-fashioned style. So in that sense, I think if some companies provide ETF or Bitcoin Trust, they can trade at face-to-face trading.
I think from our point of view, we've had these conversations with IFAs, wealth managers, family offices, and they have approached us to say, like, how do we get exposure? But I think they've had that reluctancy to actually invest because of the nature of crypto that it's unregulated at the moment. So if we do hopefully see regulation, that should give the green light for family offices to add these crypto assets to the portfolios that they currently have for clients. And with that, hopefully we'll see a more mature industry and greater adoption.
Okay, very good. Okay. Sorry, the microphone seems to have come off. So next subject is basically, obviously you're all trying to grow your exchanges. So what is the biggest challenge that you are kind of facing at the moment, trying to grow your exchanges?
Well, I think everyone on the panel at least would agree that the exchange running 24/7 is the hardest part. Basically don't have a life. because we have all those sorts of security breaches happening on holidays and weekends. It doesn't really matter what time. So having a 24/7 operations is not an easy thing. There's no rule of maintenance that everyone has, like at 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning.
It was like when CZ said, should we all just agree on a day when we all just go offline one Sunday?
Exactly. I know that in Japan there are some regulations where you have to mandate to have a maintenance period.
Yeah.
However, especially with a lot of the crypto exchanges like Poloniex, you really don't have that freedom. I think that's one of the biggest hurdles to operate fully 24/7 all across the globe. I think the second part is basically, it's not only the exchanges that will grow this industry, it's basically the counterparts that we talked about. I think Harry talked about like the usage of and basically different types of retail coming in. And I think that part is also, the ecosystem has to grow with the crypto exchanges. And I think that's the part that I think also the crypto exchanges have to put more of interest to help grow other token ecosystems.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess to follow on from that, like if we look back to 2017, when everyone was trying to get on an exchange, it was carnage. There were, thousands and thousands of tickets. And I think in that 2 years, or 3 years, there's been a lot of companies growing around Elliptic, Chain Analysis, on Fido, who have helped build the ecosystem and the rails and automate a lot of the process, that if there was a surge, I think, but deep down, it's still got to be trust. And, the difficult part of an exchange is your staff are the biggest point of failures, like spear phishing, everything. And I guess what we're trying to do is really make sure that we're the most trusted exchange that when you're with us, and I think it's hard to prove that, because if you look on any exchange's website right now, they say most trusted exchange. So why are we more, and so I think internally we're doing a lot of like security audits and all of these things that not necessarily a lot of people don't see, but means that we are secure. And I think once people start to see that trust, I think that will help us grow a lot faster, because essentially we are acting almost as a bank.
Yeah.
Japan is a unique situation right now, I think, because we got regulated and we have to get audited every year. So we are trusted, kind of. But the problem is, right now at BitBank, we have only 6 cryptocurrencies right now listed. And the largest exchange, I think they have only 8 or 7 or something like that. This is because of the regulation. So we cannot add cryptocurrencies easily. So we have to focus on how to add new coins next year. Yeah.
I think from our point of view, it's more about trust. Going back to 2017, the reason we were somewhat successful in the acquisition of new clients is we were an established name already in the traditional markets, and the fact that we were regulated did help. So even though the crypto space was unregulated, they still saw the fact that we have process and procedures in place that we could mirror to the crypto side of our business as well. In terms of 2017, if we were to see another bull market, it's about how can you as an exchange prepare for that next wave of customers. So I think a challenge for exchanges going forward is how do you set up so you can focus, so you can scale efficiently and quickly. It's another thing to consider.
Okay, very good. So my final question to you guys is, so this year is very much last year was very much the year of the stable coin, and now we've every exchange seems to be offering its own stable coin, and other exchanges seem to survive quite well without them. What's your view? Do you need a stable coin for your exchange business?
Well, I mean, I think it gives a sense to everyone on how Bitcoin is doing. And I mean, like it's a comparison of, I mean, if you look at the headlines, it's always Bitcoin hit 8,000, it's 10,000, 13,000. It's basically a metric that you use. At the same time, I think it's basically a good medium. In the past, when you can only have collateral in these different types of, so I think it's 2 things. One is for financial instruments, like for instance, BitMEX only had BTC as collateral.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was like the only futures market. However, FTX came out and they had Tether or USDC as collateral, which actually helped other people because it was stable and you wouldn't fall into default. So I think as a medium of a financial instrument, it actually is helpful. At the same time, these stable currencies have improved in terms of transactional speed. And it has been used for different types of purposes for arb trading and different types of normalization in price between different exchanges. And I think that medium has been improving. So given that, and given the fast nature and the stable nature of these currencies, I think it is something that is essential that connects the crypto currencies and then the assets with the ordinary payments and the ordinary people, like the regular retail in the real world that we all want to kind of penetrate into.
Cool. So I think so far we haven't had a stablecoin on our platform. I think a lot of that is down to the regulation, the uncertainty of like, are you holding dollars in some of the regions that we're in is quite an interesting thing. I think something like DAI is awesome. You know, the moment we all starting getting DAI on our card and our exchange and our mobile payment is the moment that we can start using crypto in our daily lives. You know, you're not going to look back and go, oh, damn, I spent that DAI. Like, I mean, everyone's got a story of when they spent Bitcoin X amount, and you know that PlayStation is now worth $32,000. So in terms of like mass adoption, I do think stablecoins are interesting. I think they're like a good way for like arbitrage and across that. I think still too early for us to like. We're looking at them. And, I mean, Tether is it the second most traded crypto? I think at 4 billion. So yeah, it's interesting, and I think definitely will develop further.
Okay.
Yes, I like stablecoins personally, but in Japan, all exchanges don't list stablecoins right now because stablecoin is not defined as cryptocurrencies. So it's pretty hard to use it. Yeah.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah, so from our point of view, under eToro, we have a dedicated exchange, eToro X, and with that, we've released a suite of 10 fiat-backed stablecoins. They do provide usefulness in times of volatility in the market. So if you don't want to be in a particular crypto asset, you can just switch to being in a stablecoin and sort of remove yourself from that risk. One interesting thing I would like to sort of point out is what happens when central banks start to release their own digital currencies, and what does that mean for the stablecoin industry as a whole? And for us as exchanges and platforms, how do we integrate central bank digital currencies into our offering?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay, great. Okay, outsourcing custody opens up possibilities for clearing systems. Are exchange operators open to this? This is an important one. So obviously, in my own trading, I have to constantly shift money around for trading. Obviously, it's going to be a lot easier if we have a clearing system where, just like the way that banks work. Have you got any views on that?
Sure. I think it's all about the alliance of different types of exchanges to start with. But especially like, I think Harry talked about being the most trustworthy exchange. And I think the most important thing that a lot of exchanges are pouring in their energy into is custody and trying to keep your funds as safe as possible. So there's a lot of internal knowledge and know-how that a lot of the exchanges have accumulated. So I think that's something that I think it's more of like how can exchanges integrate with other custodian solutions to have more of an on-chain seamless experience. I think the answer is more of like a movement of more maturity of how we could consolidate more of the volume and more of custody as a whole. And I would imagine that comes as we are a bit more mature in terms of liquidity, in terms of more regulatory grounds, that there are some requirements that allow this to make the exchanges move in that direction. Because to be honest, I think right now a lot of the exchanges will try to keep everything safe in their grounds because they are comfortable with that.
Yes. I mean, it's obviously a trust issue between the clearing houses and the exchanges.
Yeah.
So what about Luno?
I think like firstly, custody is something we take extremely seriously. Like 90% is in cold storage, 3 vaults underground, split at 3 different levels, and so that's something that we've taken very seriously. Are we open to opening it up to other systems? I think we are. I think initial conversations are being had, so other more consumer-based apps could leverage the Luno custody. Luno's holding it, and then there's some nice consumer app on the front. Like this isn't happening, but say like Monzo added buy Bitcoin, behind the scenes, Luno is doing that custody with its cold storage, with its 7 years of experience, and that you can trust that. And then of course that opens up the options to loads of other apps, etc. So I think that is quite interesting.
Okay.
Yes, I think there are some needs for these kinds of settlement and custody services. But the problem is, we are regulated and we have high criteria because of regulation. So we cannot outsource right now. This is pretty important thing for the exchanges. So if there are some services qualify the needs, I think we will use it.
I think from my point of view as an account manager at eToro, custody is the number one question I get asked, how safe are my crypto funds? And at eToro, we do take security funds very, very seriously. What I would say around custody and outsourcing it, if you were a new exchange, perhaps not experienced in custody yourself, outsourcing that does have a benefit, especially if they do have insurance to back it as well. That could be very interesting.
Okay.
I mean, I guess we've seen like Binance trying to offer the B to B to C.
Yeah.
With their exchanges, where they've brought that in, where I guess they're kind of offering up their custody.
Okay. Very good. I think we've just got just enough time for the final one. Do you think it's easier to attract institutional or retail investment to crypto exchanges? Who should exchanges focus on going forward? So what's easier, retail or institutional? I mean, I think retail's been kind of a big supporter for the last few years, and I see institutional money starting to come in, but it's only a trickle at the moment. So, what do you guys see?
In numbers, it takes 27 seconds to onboard a retail on Poloniex. It takes a day to onboard an institution. However, less than a day, but to get everything ramped up, it takes a couple weeks to up to 9 months because there's an opportunity cost for institutions. To answer that question, I mean, it's easier to get one retail on board than one institution. However, the magnitude of trading volume and the impact that they make, actually, I think institutions are something a bit more focused these days because a lot of the retail has been shy of trading because of the crazy volatility that has been happening. But I think that's the reason why we're trying to focus on some retail-focused, like passive income type of strategies.
Yeah, I think both are important, and I think both are different. I think at the moment we've got this concept of an exchange, but actually going forward, there's going to be retail exchanges, institutional exchanges, and I think we're going to see a lot of product diversion. And I think both are super important, and I think both will happen, and quite quickly.
I think it depends on the definition of an institution. In Japan, most institutions now, the financial services don't trade cryptocurrencies. So yeah, it's pretty hard to attract them.
I think as Harry mentioned there, it's important to understand the demographic that you want on your exchange, really. They're both equally as important as each other in terms of the overall development of the industry. So whether it's retail or institutional that you focus on, I think it's really down to yourself and your own objectives as an exchange.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. We're out of time at the moment, but thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.